to the show and fall at your door. We got that info for you. Touchdown on that side and buy anything. More than just a podcast for you.
So every week we do something called the Tweener series. And so this week, our question is, what's the difference in a 2 technique and a 3 technique? And how are some players better for each technique at the next level?
I'm gonna go ahead and let Mr. Tolliver jump on that one, and I'm probably gonna pick it back.
Well, 2 technique, 3 technique. You know, we in football, there's a lot of techniques that these coaches teach. You know, and it's just like anything else. And I always go back to the big picture thought. It's just like, okay, am I good at math or am I good at English? Well, I feel like I'm good at math. English is where my challenge is, okay? But in football, when you're teaching a 2 and a 3, who's better at either one or the other? Are they better at both? They teach it is because it's been so successful. Given the players that have played it very well and some that have played it, you know, okay. So, you know, I just think it's really it's one of those things where may the best man win, you know, when it comes to the technique stuff. You know, he's good at it. He can do it better than him. That's why he starts. That's why he's, you know, right behind him, number 2 in line. But, you know, I like them both because they both bring a whole lot of strengths to whatever defense you're playing, you know, or offense you're up against or what have you. I just know that those techniques are important, and you're going to find kids that either do both or they can do one or the other, and they'll be good at it.
Okay.
I try to do my homework. You know, my son played D-line, then he played linebacker in college. But I'm thinking the 2 technique might be a little bit easier. You know, they use words like shock, separate, squeeze, you know, mirroring the linemen. Where the 3 technique, it was 2 major rules. Make sure you can't be reached and can't allow a jump through. What all that means, it sounds like it's a lot. So I'm thinking in high school, I would assume they do the 2 technique, but in college they may do more 3 because it may be more explosive offenses. That's just my take on it. So I'm gonna go with the 2 technique. But the next level, it's all about the program you go to and what they want. You gotta be willing to learn it.
So y'all, I had to go out and do some research on this one. So I'm trying to be better with this whole technique stuff. So for those people who don't know, like me, based on what I researched, is that it's all about where your defensive lineman lines up. The 2, he's going to be right over the guard, and the 3 is going to be the outside shoulder of the guard. But where it got really interesting to me is the things that they were asked to do. So I'm going to let Tolliver, Terrence, keep me honest. In the research that I did, people who do the 2, their responsibility is 2 different gaps. And so they want them to be strong. They want them to be able to actually command a double team. They want them to be able to hold their ground. But people who are doing the 3, those are the people that they want to shoot the gap. They want them in the backfield. They want them rushing the passer. They want them really, really quick off the ball. And so I was reading that it's very hard for people to transition specifically from college to the NFL and play the 3. It's extremely desirable right now. So if you're a parent listening to this, work on your 3 technique. But lots of people in the NFL are looking for people who can actually play the 3 technique. People like one of the people that came up, Gerald McCoy, Calais Campbell. And so it was really interesting doing the research because it's 2 totally different skill sets. One deals with quickness and another one deals with strength. And so I don't know at any level if defenders are able to actually switch between strength and speed very, very easily. You have people who typically, in my experience, they're known for being quick. good hands, quick, can get in the backfield, but those people also aren't necessarily known for being stout and strong and able to fill multiple gaps at the same time.
Oh, can I make a comment? Yeah, and I agree with you on that, James Etta, but to a certain degree, because what I would tell an athlete, a lineman in particular, you can do a lot of things when you're in high school, but then when you go to that next level, you start honing it, you start sharpening it or whatever. So I feel like you're talking about a bigger lineman and maybe a smaller lineman. So, then where they are they on the inside or are they on the outside and things like that. So, but I think definitely at the professional level, when you get to the professional level, you got to be you need to be familiar with both, I would say, but know your strengths. You know what I'm saying? Don't be trying to use the 2 technique if you bigger and you need to be using that 3. You know what I'm saying? Let's kind of be honest, y'all. We be lying a lot to our athletes and to ourselves. Yeah. But if we're being honest, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, be familiar with both, because you can get in a scheme where a coach wants you to do something different, but at the same time, now if you bigger, that 2 probably ain't gonna work for you. You know what I mean? So you might want to try to put on a few more pounds and get on that inside. But then if you smaller, you may want to just put on some muscle. You just see what I'm saying? I'm just saying, be honest. That's all I'm gonna say about it.
And you're saying that we be lying, that we need to be honest about our skills and abilities.
Angela, you're right. James Etta, you right. Parsons, y'all right. But all these schools run different defenses and they have needs. Y'all know that. That's how they recruit. What can this guy do for us? We talked about it earlier in this whole thing, So I know from being in the SEC conference and part of the ACC conference is that these coaches that I'm familiar with, that I've talked to, D-line coaches and defensive coordinators, they're trying to really brand what they do for their own career, for their current position and where they're at for their school, and how they can get those kids to the next level. Because that's what the NFL is looking for. They're looking for the dominant person that can do multiple things. And we kind of know who those schools are that typically put the most in the NFL when you're talking about the interior, in the box, and then when you talk about on the back end, on both sides of the ball. So, that technique 2 and 3, if they can do both, they want it. They want to be very versatile, man. I'm telling you, because that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. That's gonna stop a lot of stuff, coming across that ball. So I feel we all touched on everything, and how important the 2 and the 3 is. But they both important. I'm gonna be honest with you. They really are, because everybody got needs every single year, from high school to college, from college to the league. They all got needs. And I'm going to tell you, they all looking for a college and in the league. They're looking for somebody that can play the 2 and the 3. They want to be versatile. And if they can't get but a 2, they're going to take the 2. If they can't get but a 3, they're going to take the 3. Then they're going to go try to find somebody that can play the 2. That's why they got, 85 men on the roster, and they get a chance to pick 25 kids every year in college.
That's a really good point. So next question. If you were a senior who opted out for this year, would you play in the Senior Bowl? Why or why not?
I mean, it depends, to be honest with you. Sorry, Parsons. It depends. It just depends on the situation at the time. I mean, if everything is in place like it should, the processes we've been talking about the last couple of weeks with this COVID, these kids' safeties, and they're going to get an opportunity to be looked at and get an opportunity to go to the league, then I would play it. But if the processes ain't in place and it ain't right, then no, I wouldn't play in it.
It just goes back to me where, again, where do they have me ranked right now? If I'm a almost solidified first rounder and I opted out, I'm not playing in the Senior Bowl. There's no reason. I'm going to go ahead and continue with my opt-out, and I'm going to train to get ready for the combine and everything else. But now if I'm looking at maybe 3rd or 4th round and I'm not really doing too good, I may go ahead and play in that game to give me an extra look. But if I opted out, I've opted out. I'm not going to play.
If it's me, I'm a senior, I opted out, I'm going to play unless I'm a first rounder. And again, what we've learned is you don't really know if you're a first rounder unless you top 5. So I'm going to play because what I learned from the Senior Bowl this previous year it's the beginning. I feel like the draft does start at Mobile. You got all the coaches there, their scouts. I have pictures of what's the man's name from Pittsburgh standing on the sideline watching my son's every move. When my son got off the field, he was the first coach that came. It starts then because you get interviews. It's just so much more than just a football game. And also what I learned in the football game is that you ain't really required to play 4 quarters. You know what I mean? You're getting breaks. They definitely don't want to get anybody hurt. But the exposure that you get, I really enjoyed it. I felt like my son raised his stock. My son went 4th round, but he could have easily been a 2nd round pick. And I'm not just saying that because I'm his mama. Y'all will see. Carolina Panthers, number 25, Troy Pride Jr.
I was there with Angela. That was my bucket list thing that I crossed off this year, the Senior Bowl. And I would say that I believe that if you're invited after you've opted out, it's a very good indicator that somebody wants you. It really is. And so, to your point, if you know that you're a lock for the first round, if you know that then maybe you do opt out because you still have the combine, you still have your pro day. But for those people who are trying to raise their draft stock, who are trying to get a little bit of a bigger bag, this is a great opportunity, not just to play, but to network. And one of the things that I observed, and Angela, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but during the game is they try to put you with people that people would want you to see, playing against. Like they were strategic in who they put on the field with every defensive and offensive series. You didn't play the whole game, but they did try to match you up in a way that would make people sit up and take notice. And so I think for some players, it could be really, really, really a good opportunity to raise their draft stock, to make their own relationships as well. Because they did a lot of, I didn't realize at the time, but it's like a week long. And there's meetings and there's different people that you get to know. So I think it'd be an opportunity to build some relationships as well.
And interviews. I mean, you start interviewing with the teams that are there. And the thing about opting out this year, we don't know what the combine is going to look like. We don't know what those other entities are going to look like. So my thing is, please take every opportunity, y'all, because I know way too many guys that didn't get drafted now who ain't getting calls for tryouts or whatever. And then when you look at going into a year that's really as uncertain as this year as far as the draft, will they push it back, those sorts of things, you about to be competing with the guys, the leftovers from this year who are still trying to get that tryout spot and things like that. So every opportunity, I really do feel like you have to take it if this is what you want to do, not put yourself at risk. But I'm sure even the Senior Bowl, Jim Nagy, he's going to put in every, CDC protocol, and they're going to do the things that they need to keep the kids safe, I feel like. But that's just me.
Yeah.
Last question of the show. And this question was submitted by one of our listeners, Shawnee Meeks, who actually went to an HBCU in Ohio. And her question is, how can HBCUs leverage the attention they are currently getting from the NFL into more roster spots for their student athletes?
I'm going to say something real quick on this. And this is just my own opinion. It's a lot to say because that's a big topic. That's been a big topic for probably, I don't know, the last 8 to 10 years. It's probably been longer than that, but that's when I noticed it with the HBCUs. And I'm only going to speak on my experience. When I took my oldest to an HBCU, you don't get the same treatment. They want to be a part of it. They want some of the good players, but you don't get the same treatment. I'm not talking about the red carpet stuff. I'm talking about the interest of a player, period, okay? And then the amount of work that they put in. I know they don't have the financial resources that these big schools got, but my God, pick the phone up and call somebody. But you want to be a part of that. I just think there's just so much leg work and so much foundational work to be a part of something greater than what it's been in HBCU segments, to be a part of some of what these big schools are doing. You got to go put in the work, and everybody got to be on the same playing field. It's just so much. I get a little real annoyed about the HBCU topic because I just know, because I went through it and I saw it. They not putting in enough work. It's not consistent. They all are all over the place, you know, and it hurts our kids because I got a 5-star player, #1 corner in the nation, that's looking at coming to your school, and you can't even pick the phone up and call during your break period, you know, or your opening period. And then I call you, then I make a trip there, and it's like I know I'm not going to get this kid. But God, you just defeated yourself. What do you mean you know you're not going to get the kid? He has a little brother that's coming up. I mean, this is an opportunity. You might get this kid. So that's my own opinion about it. I'm sorry I went on a tangent about it, but man, that's my feelings about this HBCU thing. They could be much greater. They got to put in the work. They got to go to work.
Yeah,
I think they need some money. I mean, so, okay, let's talk about that for a second. So you said they can't pick up the phone or whatever, but let's look at the disparity in what the power. So, okay, I'm going to give you an example. This was one of my main examples. Lord, and I hope don't nobody shoot me for saying this because my son was real close to going to this school. But anyway, so we went to North Carolina State, right? My oldest son was being recruited or whatever, you know, yep, it was a recruiting visit. So obviously they rolled out the red carpet or whatever, but we saw their facilities. We saw everything they had to offer or whatever. And then at the time they were in the process of building their indoor facility and they had gotten like $20 million. Okay. North Carolina State ain't won nothing. I don't know when. They got $20 million. And in my mind, I was like, because I'm an SEC girl. I'm born and bred in Alabama, so roll tide. But I was like, North Carolina State ain't never won nothing. And, you know, okay, they got $20 million. So fast forward, my son, younger son, ended up, he attends North Carolina A&T, which is one of the top HBCUs. But we've been to the Celebration Bowl 3 out of the last 4 years, and we won it 3 out of the last 4 years. And you know how much they get for winning the Celebration Bowl? That's like the HBCU National Championship. They get $1 million, if that. So when you think about a team who's, because it's in a Power 5 conference, that somebody's just chunking $20 million at, and they ain't won nothing, barely making the bowl games. And then you talk about a team who's producing and who's going on a national stage every year, and they're only getting $1 million. I feel like you got to pay those coaches more. You got to invest more in those facilities. And it ain't just from the alumni, because that $20 million that NC State got wasn't from the alumni. It was from that conference. So that's the part that kind of confuses me. I do feel like the HBCUs deserve to be on that playing field, but I would agree with you because I'm living it. I know that my son they give him like 2 pair of shoes, whereas my son that went to Notre Dame, if his shoe felt wrong, he could just go get a whole nother pair. But North Carolina A&T really isn't sponsored by Nike. Nike just kind of throws them a bone in order to keep their name out there. And like I said, they got to scrap over gear. So when you talk about the money, when you talk about the fact that the coaches, when you talk about what Nick Saban, who is one of my top coaches, gets paid compared to Coach Washington at North Carolina A&T, follow the money. It ain't gonna ever get better until the money is rationed out equally. And again, it's my beef with the NCAA.
And let me ask you this, and we know it's about money. But how do we go get that money? We go to work. We put in work. We beat the streets. We look for, big time supporters, outside of the program. It's a lot of work. This is how all of these big conferences got built. They put in that work and people bring the money. It's the platform. What are we building? I'm not saying, it's like, come on, you see the platform, you see how it gets done. So for the resources part, you got to start somewhere. Those HBCUs just didn't come up just from the ground up, just all of a sudden just appeared. Somebody put in work with these schools for these schools to be standing today. So when we talk about moving the pendulum, we got to keep moving. And the only way I know how you go get that money, you got to put in work. You got to go beat them streets. You got to go beat them state. You got to go find it.
But I believe that, Coach, it's a system. It's a system. Who stands to gain if the HBCU? Because if the HBCU, if they do rise up, if you give them the opportunity, those guys can compete on any level. The players I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the coaches. I'm not talking about the staff. I'm not talking about those guys can compete on any level. So who stands to gain though when you have HBCU QBs who might be coming in and taking over the Trevor Lawrences? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, who stands to lose? So I feel like what you're saying is absolutely correct, but we can't just go out and they are working, I feel like. But I think that the chips are stacked so far against us as HBCUs, we'll never get out of that rut. I can go on a pipe, get on a soapbox, and I won't do that, but I do feel like it's a system. I feel like if Nike says that they sponsor North Carolina A&T, and they don't give them the same thing that they're giving Clemson, who's also sponsored by Nike. So that's the HBCU. If the HBCU didn't ask for enough. That's what you're saying?
So let me interject. Let's just be honest. My kid didn't go to a HBCU. He went to a service academy, go Air Force. But we live here in Nashville, where TSU is. And what I find is that HBCUs have done exactly what we are asking every institution to do. They have consistently turned out student athletes, people that excel on the field, on the court, on the track, and then they go on to be doctors, lawyers, engineers. Students, in my opinion, who go to HBCUs aren't asked to sacrifice their future dreams as far as what they really want to do, what degree they really, really want to pursue, because football practice is at a specific time. I have a friend whose son is at TSU, and his coaches were working with him. They were like, okay, you want to be a finance major, your class ends at this particular time, we'll spot you, we'll allow you to be late for practice because academics really matter. And for me, I don't see HBCUs articulating the unique value proposition that they have. They have consistently done what every parent asks. Please allow me to get some money for my kid so we can have some free college, allow him or her to pursue the degree of their dreams and compete athletically. Like, I don't understand why, in my opinion, from my observation, this is me on the outside looking in, why aren't we articulating the unique value proposition? Why aren't we stating this is what HBCUs have done historically? If I'm a parent that's looking at Alabama sideways because they're going to make my kid choose between football and his actual chosen career path, a local HBCU may be the best option for me, but you're not out there telling me. And then you're telling some people like me that, well, you went to a PWI, so you're less than. My money's still green. Like that for me, I'm looking and I'm like, okay, I'm waiting for you to come to tell me that you want my money. I'm not spending my money with somebody that doesn't like me. And so for me, as a non-HBCU parent that actually observes and really, really loves the one that we have here, I don't see them articulating the thing that they do that's consistent and unique, and that's what every parent wants for their child. And I don't see them asking for money from people that didn't go to HBCUs, and we would give them money.
Well, so are you talking about marketing, James?
Just ask me. Just invite me to stuff. You can go get a database of the Black people, Black professionals in your area. Just ask me, invite me. Or when I do come on your campus and you have the little booths where you get people's information, follow up. Don't just assume that because I'm not an HBCU graduate that I won't actually give you money. Now, I'm not going to beg you to take my money, but if you come to me, I will actually support you. I pub them all the time. Refer people to them for athletic events as well. But I just don't see HBCUs doing that successfully. And that's how you get money. Like, that's how you build a coalition. Alabama is really, really clear about what they do well. Really, really clear. I don't have no question about what Nick Saban is doing at Alabama. None at all. but my local coach here at my HBCU, talk to me. You ain't even got to talk to me nice. Just talk to me. I will support you, but you have to let me know I'm welcome. And I don't see that we do that. And I wish we did it more.
Yeah, I believe I touched on this in the other episode. You know, they always ask me, why did my son visit the HBCU? My thing is, why didn't HBCU reach out? Again, they may not offer the glamour and glitz as a Power 5, but you could probably put a package together and say, listen, if you do come here, this is what we could do. Because if you're good, they're going to find you. I don't feel you have to go big time if you're going to get to the league. Does it competition matter? It does matter, but at the same time, they're going to follow you. So if I'm a top 5 player in the country, as they put me out to bid, and I go to a HBCU, they're going to follow me to see how I play. And should I be dominating, and they're going to put the factors together. It's a database. It's following the money. But the HBCUs right now, they're hoping these kids come and talk to them, where I feel you should come talk to them first. Like in basketball, the Mikey Williams guy, he said he may go to a HBCU. That's the big talk. He's a freshman saying that. Now, if he goes through this as a senior and goes to HBCU, that's a step in the right direction. And if you get 4 or 5 of them top players to go there, that HBCU will be on the map for that year. But at the same time, the NBA go ahead and drop the age level, then all bets is off. They'll be leaving out of high school, going right to the NBA. So that's another shot in the foot. Because they're never going to facilitate.
Right, but I think that you guys are pretending that it really is that equal. So when you talk about a 5-star guy who's saying I may go to an HBCU or whatever, but you guys are also saying that you didn't get contacted. So my son did get contacted by an HBCU, but at the same time, after seeing what my eldest son, even just like I said, the visits and the communication and the systems that they had in place, I agree that those systems aren't in place with the HBCU, but let's not forget also that recruiting is a whole system too. So basically the way it works is if the Power 5 offers you the D2 or D3 school, HBCU really ain't even gonna offer you. I get what y'all are saying is they should, but they can't even compete, because once you go on Clemson's campus, and once Clemson gives you their sales pitch, if the HBCU tried to even invent that sales pitch, it would be a lie, because financially they are not even close to being equal.
You're right.
Angela, I agree with you on that.
I agree, but playing time is crucial too. At the HBCU, he make a promise you can start for 4 years. Where at Clemson, you may be the big fish as a freshman, but as soon as they lock you in, they looking for a bigger fish. As soon as they sign you in, they looking for somebody better than you.
And I'll be honest with you, Angela. I really pursue. I am an HBCU student. I went to Grambling, and I really leaned on them for my oldest boy. I literally did. And I couldn't believe the responses I got back from the head coach and the position coach. I said, guys, you kidding me? I came on my own. You didn't even look for me. You didn't call for me. I came on my own. I put him right there in front of you. And it was almost like y'all was just like amazed, like a sticker shock. It's like, and I brought him back home to his roots, Louisiana. So at the end of the day, that's near and dear to my heart. I went to them. So everybody's experience has been different,
But Coach Oliver, like you said, though, what's the norm, though? The norm is
it's been the norm, and I'm sick of it.
Well, once you get an offer from LSU, Grambling don't stand a chance.
But
man, they did. They had a chance. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna go live on this thing, but they had a chance. They had a chance because Kevin was never locked into LSU.
Because you're an HBCU guy, they had a chance. But with somebody like me, I went to a PWI. I didn't know anything about HBCUs. So I was, of course, like, man, we going to North Carolina State because I can already see, I can already see the difference.
But I'm going to say this. I don't want them to compete on facilities, because that's not what they do well. But what they do every day, what parents want them to do, give my child an opportunity to play and pursue the degree of his or her choice. They don't make, from in my experience, HBCUs are not like a North Carolina that's saying you cannot do X major because basketball practice at this time every day. So if you thought you was going to be a doctor and that pre-med prerequisite that you needed is during the time of basketball practice, you need to go switch your major because you're going to have to do something else. And that's the message that every parent wants. I don't want them to compete on facilities, but you compete on the thing that matters most, academics and education. And the NFL is telling us, we will find you. We will find you. And that's what breaks my heart. I mean, it really does. We go to TSU every single year. Every single year they get my dollars because I want to support them. And I'm like, guys, you do what every parent wants. There's almost every parent, because I'm going to be honest, some of them do just care about the NFL. But most parents, that's what we want. We want our kids to have the opportunity to play and to pursue the degree of their choice without having to sacrifice their education. And I see HBCUs all over the country doing it so well and so effortlessly, and they've been doing it for decades. And you want to compete on facilities? No, compete on what you do, which is the thing that matters most to most parents. And that's what hurts my heart.
I agree. Well said.
I ain't gonna agree with that, but I ain't gonna say nothing to incriminate myself.
You're all right, Angela.
I can go in about they you know, again, they probably are producing some stellar young African American people, and I'll definitely go with that. But I mean, my son's an engineering major too, and so he's gotten some flack for you know, wanting to go to labs and wanting to stay after and this, that, and the other, because again, what you know what that depends on? That depends on the coaches. But A&T is a winning program, and so when you're a winning program, guess what? You get to do what you want to do too. And so that may not be the consensus. You know, I can't speak for Morgan, I can't speak for FAM, I can't speak for those programs. I can only speak for the ones that I'm currently interacting with. But you know, I get what you're saying, James, and I think probably they could do a better job of that. But I really want them to be able to have some more marketing dollars. I want them to be able to have that same, take that $20 million that you gave to NC State and split it in thirds for the HBCUs that are in North Carolina, South Carolina. And again, because again, when you talk about giving a school $20 million who ain't won nothing, that just makes my skin boil. I'm like, what?
Hey, that sounds like somebody beat the streets a little bit different on that one, huh?
Guys,
but let me say this real quick before we get off. Listen, the HBCU thing, man. I will say this because I know I've been talking about it for the last 8-10 years. So what I am seeing, that they are listening and they are making moves where they're giving the schools an opportunity to play Power 5 schools and getting that, you know, that media exposure, you know, and then the schools pay them to come play. So I do know that they are doing those things to compete, to bring revenue into some of the HBCUs, which is good. But my thing of it is just keep mashing the gas, because trust me, it's there for them. They just got to keep mashing the gas. They got to keep mashing it.
And I was excited about the HBCU Combine. I was really, really hoping that was going to happen this year, because I think that too is a step in the right direction. When you give these guys a chance to compete and you can match up their numbers with some of them Combine numbers, that's going to be a good thing. I hope they try to keep that going.
Well, I think they will. I think they will, Angela. Dion is a big part of it. He pushed it really hard. He spoke on it real high, you know, and from what I'm understanding, they're going to keep it going.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So we'll wrap up with those thoughts. I want to say thank you guys for joining us for another edition of the 10-4 YouTube show. Please continue to submit your questions. Shawnee, thanks for giving us this question. It really led to some really, really great discussion. Remember, like us on YouTube, subscribe to our channel, leave some comments, and we will see all of you next week.